Amazing. Well, yeah. So obviously, I get, as you can imagine, I get a lot of questions about, just this business and the life that we've created. And my only answer to a lot of the questions, obviously, we talk about mindset, skill set, but the reality of it is none of it would be possible if I didn't have a good woman behind me. Charlie's basically the reason why I'm able to do what I'm doing. It's a team effort. It's not a me thing. It's a we thing. We are a team. I met her at a Rich Dad Poor Dad seminar, and I was like super focused on where I'm going in life. And then she walked in, almost like I explained it. She was like, you ever see like a green hedge? And you see like these like massive like pink bit of flower. That was like her, and I'm thinking like, what's she doing here? Do you know what I mean? So, and she actually approached me. She actually approached me, and like we got talking, and I actually recruited her into my first network marketing company. I thought I was good at recruiting. Apparently, she just fancied me. Um, But yeah, we kind of built a relationship from then, and she's amazing, man. She's got an amazing family, completely different background to Jake Parton. She's taught me a lot about like self-worth, self-esteem, and just making becoming super successful a normal thing. Not feeling guilty about it. Everyone should be proud to continue growing. There's not many ladies that I know of that think the way Charlie thinks. She's been mentored by some of the most successful ladies on the planet as well. And I'm really excited for Charlie to sort of share. And this is super out of her comfort zone, by the way. So I hope everyone respects that. She doesn't really do these calls at all, but the information you're going to get is going to be valuable. You understand that? And also, if you got any questions throughout the call, just write them down. Just write them down. Because she's an open book for sure, 100%. So with that being said, I would love to bring up my beautiful wife, Charlie Parton. Here she is. What's he back?
Hi, everybody. Excuse me while I go from mum mode to what chair am I sat in right now?
Just like pin you here.
Bear with us a sec. I'm just going to sort the technicalities out.
Do you want to see everyone? Or do you want?
Yeah, that's fine.
There we go.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you very much, babe. Lovely to see everybody. Good morning. Happy Sunday. So, yes, like Jake was saying last night, I think it's obviously I wanted to do this call for the ladies, and I know a lot of you have been asking, which is great. I was actually thinking over the last couple of days, it is really something that men need to hear as well. So women, don't be scared that the men are on the call as well. Um, this is actually one of the biggest key things. Like you really need to involve your partner in everything that you're doing. You need to have, if you have a partner or you're married right now, communication is one of the biggest things. So if there's ever if there's ever anything that you feel that you should maybe keep separate from them, that's a kind of question in itself as to why do you think you need to keep that separate? Because really a partnership and a marriage is just that. It's a partnership. You need to be able to be 100% honest with each other no matter what the topic is. And obviously, there are times where men want to speak to men, women want to speak to women. That's totally fine. But at the end of the day, this information just goes for everybody. So how I really wanted to start the call today was I know it's Sunday morning. The average person is, especially in the UK, it's bank holiday. So the average person's waking up probably a little bit hungover, maybe a bit, relaxed, maybe had a lie in. But obviously, you guys are on this call. So I really want you to just have in the forefront of your mind, maybe take 10 seconds or so just to really think about what is your actual goal. Whether it's what's your goal from this call? What do you want to take from it? Is there a question, like a burning question that you really want to ask? Do you know what your goal is this month? We just started May. Do you know what your goal is for this year? Because the reason I want to ask that is because if you don't have a goal, then what's the point? What are you working towards? So you need to know, like, if you're going to drive somewhere today, you get in your car and you have a target of where you're going. You put something in the sat nav, or you get in your car and you know where you're going. You have an end goal. So if you don't have an end goal for why you're on this call or what you're even doing today and tomorrow, that's the number one thing that I really want you to think about. Now, I know there's some guests on this call that have either been invited by myself or by Jake or by other people in the team. So a huge warm welcome to you. This is I'd say a one-off. We'll probably do some more of them. But this is a special call that a lot of the ladies wanted me to ask, and mainly to talk about the topic of being a high value woman, what that means and what comes with it. But if you are also here because you're really desiring some kind of freedom, whether that's financially, in relationships, just in general in life, or you're looking for work change or whatever it may be, then have a think about that as well as we're going through this call. So, what is your goal? What have you done today towards it? You're on this call, first step. That's a big step. And who do you now need to be to actually achieve that? So, quite a lot of questions we get are perhaps about relationships, understandably. And a lot of people have a lot of different questions, but they don't actually think about who do I actually need to be to attract the right relationship or attract the right wife or attract the right husband, whatever it may be. So, again, if you have a specific goal in mind, you have a specific partnership, or you would like to get married, you need to then backtrack as to now who do I need to be? So if I have this ideal life or ideal partner that I want to attract, who is that person going to be attracted to? What do I need to be like? How do I dress? How do I act? How do I speak? How do I get up in the morning? What's my mentality? How do I carry myself? How do I speak to people that I don't know? How do I speak to people that I come across on a daily basis when I go to a restaurant? How do I speak to, speak to people? Because how you treat others says a lot. But equally, we all probably know somebody who can quite easily put on a front and act confident, but perhaps internally there's a lot of turmoil going on. So you just need to have your goal in the forefront and then start to really think about who that person is. So that's kind of where I wanted to start this call. Then I was just going to go through a few things that I've learned along the way, whether it's from different mentors, whether it's through even watching my mum and dad, because they've had a very successful marriage. And I just wanted to share that with you. And then hopefully at the end, we might have a time for a couple of questions. So, first of all, you really have to know what your worth is. Now, people will ask, well, how do I how do I know what? Oh, hang on a minute. There's a phone call coming in. Hang on, I've lost the Zoom. Bear with me. Here we go. We're back. So, yeah, so a lot of people would be like, okay, know your worth. What does that even mean? Essentially, it's understanding that you as a person are amazing, but it then in turn means that you don't then need to compete with other people. There's enough abundance in the world, there's enough money in the world, there's enough men and women in the world. There is enough for everybody to find whatever it is that they want. So you don't have to compete with other people, but you also have to know internally that you are actually worthy for whatever it is on that goal that you've set. Because if you've set this goal and then the little niggle in the back of your mind is, I don't deserve that, Why is that? And that's actually what you've then got to go back and really think about. You don't need to spend too long on it, but you have to know where you're at to then start moving forwards. You need to really prioritize your self-care. Now, I don't necessarily mean, you have to go and get your lashes done and your nails done, or if you're a male, go and get groomed, and spend loads of money on it. But get up in the morning and dress nicely, brush your hair, have a shower, put some deodorant on, like look like you've groomed yourself and look well, because that all then comes back to knowing that you are a worthy person and you look at yourself. If you can look, this is actually a really good exercise. If you can look yourself in the mirror, or even you've got your cameras on at the moment, if you can see yourself, look yourself in the eye and tell yourself that you are worthy. If there's a moment where you look to the side or look to the left, it's just noticing those little signs of, okay, I'm not quite there yet. So what do I need to do to get to that point? That's okay because we're all at different stages. You just have to know internally that whoever you are, whatever stage you're at, you are actually worthy for it. So, but prioritize your self-care. For some people, that could be going to have a massage. For some people, that could be going to the gym every day. For some people, that could literally just be getting up, brushing your hair, dressing nicely, feeling whatever it is that makes you feel good in yourself. Look after yourself. This is a really big one for certainly for being a high value woman. Obviously, this calls about high value women in particular, but for men too. Know what your boundaries are. That's such a big key thing because that will then lead into everything that you do. If you know what your boundaries are in what you accept in how people talk to you, if you know what your boundaries are in how you want to live your life. So, someone could call you today saying, do you want to do this? If you have your goal fixed and you're being swayed here, there, and everywhere, you need to know what your boundaries are and what you're really focused on. So know what your boundaries are in everything. And if you haven't really thought about that, think about it. And that goes back to just knowing exactly what you want, but also knowing exactly what you don't want. Just get clarity on that. Be committed to growth. This will be a big thing. There might be some ladies on the call that are partners, wives of men that are in the business with my husband. There might be some women that are building as well. Whatever it is, be committed to your own growth because where we have often seen a lot of issues, perhaps relationship wise, is if one person really wants to grow and the other partner isn't committed to their own growth, you don't have to do the same thing. I think this is where the issue sometimes arise that perhaps the partner feels like they have to be all in with whatever their husband's doing. I'm not saying you need to do the same thing, but be committed to some form of growth yourself, whether that's you, and even better, do it together. Whether it's that you're reading the same book at the same time, or and by book I mean something that's personal growth or a productive rather than a necessarily a novel. Whether maybe it's that you're going to the gym together, just find your thing that there could be something that you do together, but there's also something that you do yourself. I know some people that really like horse riding. I know some people that really like playing golf. It's in within that though, you are growing daily. You're putting your brain into a form of how can I improve today? How can I be better today? And that then leads into so many other parts of your life. So there might be something that you're thinking, well, using the gym for an example, if you think what's the point of me going to the gym today? Because maybe I can only do 20 minutes, so I won't bother going. It's those little tiny decisions that then amount to, okay, now your goal's not going to happen, and you're actually by the end of this year going to be in the exact same position you are right now. It's those little tiny decisions that start to compound over time. And I think so many people, we were actually talking last night, so many people underestimate the compound effect. So a lot of people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but totally underestimate what they can do in 10 years because it's such a compound effect. So really look at those little daily decisions that you're making. Practice gratitude. Doesn't necessarily matter what time of day you do it. Some people prefer to do it first thing. Some people prefer to do it when you go to bed. You could do it when you're driving your car, but just make it part of your practice. Before I had kids, I had plenty of time. I don't know what I did with my time before I had kids. So I had a full-on morning routine. I'd get up, I'd write my gratitude, I'd start with the 10 main gratitudes, and then it just kept getting longer and longer and longer and longer. And that's also the beauty of it as well, because once you start focusing on being grateful, then you actually realize how much you have to be grateful for, and your list gets longer and longer and longer. So I would do my gratitude, I'd read 10 pages of some personal development, I'd meditate. Now I have two kids. I don't have time to do a morning routine because they are my morning routine. So I have to adapt. I have to do it throughout the day, whether it's listening to a podcast or just thinking about what I'm grateful for as I'm driving my car, whatever it is, just find a way to fit in. Be financially responsible. Now, I suppose was very lucky in that this is something that actually that my dad has always brought me up to be. And for those of you that have heard Jake's full story before, that was something that I really helped him with when we first got together. So some of you may have grown up in an environment that has just been part of the conversation. Some of you may have grown up in an environment where actually money was the root of all, all those kind of things. So, but at the end of the day, you have the right to make your own decisions. And you have the right to go, okay, now do I act? What is my path? What do I want my path to be? How do I want to view money? How do I want to be financially responsible? What does that even look like to me? I could go into so much about this topic, but that would probably be a whole different call. You just need to really think about what that actually really means to you. And that also then leads back to having freedom, which for a lot of people, Kelly just put in the chat, is having choices. It's being able to choose when you want to work, when you want to work. It's being able to choose even who you work with, because a lot of people just get bumped perhaps into an office or a team with people actually that they don't really like working with. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about what actual freedom? Because a lot of people go, yeah, I want to be free. Okay, once you're free, so say today, here's a pot of money, and you don't have to work. You don't have to go back to your job. Now what? What do you want to do? Are you going to get up in the morning and put on the TV? Are you going to travel the world? Are you going to go around and see all your friends and family? Like, really get deep with it. We were again in a conversation yesterday, and I said to Jake, I feel like we just do these things now, but that's because we've been in it for 8 to 10 years. It's just become normal. And what I mean by that is we were talking about, where would you like to live? Have you gone to visit that part? Have you even really thought about it? Do you want to live in a town? Do you want to live by the sea? Okay, you've decided that you want to live by the sea. Say, where? If you're in the UK, we're surrounded by sea. Where do you want to live? North in Scotland? Do you want to live south on the south coast? Like, where do you want to live by the sea? Okay, this is the town I want to live in. Have you been there? Do you know what amenities are there? Where do you want to live in the town? Do you want to live in the town or do you want to live like on the coast? Okay, have you been to visit that place? If you've been to visit it, do you even like it? So the point I'm making is this is because we've done it now for so long, a lot of these things I sort of it's just become part of our norm, but you need to do it. And I think a lot of people think I will do it when. I will do that when I have the money. I will do that when I'm free. But the fact is that you need to do it before that happens. Otherwise, that will probably never happen. It's getting clarity on what it is you really, really want and how you want to live. So going back to the high value woman topic, being a respectful wife and a respectful partner, no matter what your other half is like. So you know in yourself that you are trustworthy. If you're a woman, you're rejecting male attention. If you're out, you get attention. You're being respectful. If the way I like to think about it is that if someone was following you around with a video camera, would your behavior be respectful, no matter who you're around? Because it then gives you that mental clarity of I know who I am. It goes back to knowing what your worth is. I know who I am. I know what my values are. I know what my boundaries are. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing because all I can control is who I am and what I am doing. What anybody else does is up to them. You would hope that they would also be trustworthy and, value themselves but that's the only thing that you can control. And when we start to put our own value on other people, that's where we start to lose our boundaries and what our worth is. Communicate effectively. So you are able to express what it is that you want to say. This could even be you would like to work on your vocabulary. It could be communicating to people that you don't know. It could be putting yourself in front of a room and expressing who you are and what your story is. Like sometimes for some people, obviously they get nervous. I'm not gonna lie, I still get nervous jumping on these calls. But it's doing those things that then over time again is still building up your worthiness and it gets easier. Everyone's in the same position. Everyone feels a little bit nervous standing in front of a room. It's natural. Sometimes you just need to break the ice, but communicating effectively is important. Again, if you don't know who you are you going to be able to really voice who you are and what you want? So if you're trying to communicate, if you think you're trying to communicate to somebody about what you want, if you don't know what you want, how are you going to communicate that? And that's in all different parts of life. Shows kindness and respect. So a little bit similar to having a camera following you around during the day. I like to use the analogy of no Mean Girls, the Mean Girls film that was super popular. Being kind to everybody and anybody is really important. The biggest test is obviously when someone is trying to test you. I always try and see that as okay, why am I being tested at this point? Is this maybe I've been kind up to a certain point and now this is actually my test too. Are you really kind? Is that actually now who you really are? Or were you just pretending? Supporting your husband's growth. Now, this probably has been one of the biggest I was going to say issues, but certainly when it comes to growing a business. Now, whether you're in business with my husband or building your own business, it goes back to being committed to growth as well. Because again, if one part of the relationship is wanting to grow, but the other half isn't, that's when you're where you're going to butt heads. Because if you think about it, if when you got together, you were both in a certain position in life. So you came together at that point, you were doing this, he was doing this. If one person starts to grow and the other one isn't, there's a gap there now. There's going to be a gap there emotionally, there's going to be a gap there physically. So that's why it's so amazing if you can grow together. Again, you don't have to do the same thing, but if you're growing together, then that's where you're going to stay together ultimately. So supporting their growth in whatever it is that they want to do. Maybe they want to set up a new business. Maybe they want to earn more money this year. Maybe they want to whatever it is. You've got to have that conversation as to why why it is that they want to do that. If they're a good man and a good husband, it will be because they are doing it for you and the family. That's what you always have to really appreciate that a man's number one thing for them is to go out and win and build something. That's why most men do want to run a business, or they do want to be the top of a company, because they're always striving for that success side. But it's often because they want to do it for the love of their wife. But if we're in the back here going, why are you never home? Why can't you look after the kids? Why can't you do this? We are actually not appreciating the fact that actually they want to do it for us. Now, is there an element of, yes, we also have a lot to do. We've also, looking after the house, maybe some of us work as well. We have to look after the kids. So there is always going to be that element of give and take. But that's where you've got to be able to communicate effectively with each other. If there's an issue, discuss it. Don't let it fester for so long. I was talking to a family member the other day who was saying that they let things build up and up and up until they get to breaking point. But by that point, that is literally breaking point, as in relationships gone. Whereas if they had dealt with the issue as soon as it came up, then you'd be able to communicate, this is how I feel. The other person could go, this is how I feel. Okay, let's figure it out together. Rather than over time, it builds up to a certain point where, okay, now it's irreparable. Because two people end up getting to a point where they just explode, and then there's often no going back after that. Now, I've written a little bit here about submission. Submission is understanding that by supporting your husband's goals and growth, everybody wins. Some of you may have heard about submitting to your husband. That doesn't mean that you are a pushover. You've got to really think about what your boundary. That's why I wanted you to think about what your boundaries are first. Knowing what you want, knowing what your boundaries are, but at the same time, understanding that he has his own goals and growth that he needs to do. And if he's not able to do that, that's actually diminishing his spirit. And he's only going to have internal resentment built up, which isn't going to be good for anybody. It's not going to be good for the relationship. So just having that understanding will massively help in within the relationship. Then the husband is going to be fulfilled, and actually he wants to then win more for his wife. So wives, I don't think you actually realize how much power you actually have. Because if the man wants to win for you and you let him succeed, all these lists of things that you want, he's actually going to get it for you. Have you thought about that? But you have to know what you want and you have to have that understanding. And then you work together. It's not that, he goes off to work and you never communicate together and you have this disconnect and there's actually no relationship because he's off going to work and you're just at home doing nothing. And that's not what I'm saying. But you actually have to understand that actually you have the power. Women actually have the power. Sorry, guys. But you know in your heart, if you the reason that you really want to win is because you want to do it for the people that you love. So we just know how to channel that and build it together. Having high self-esteem is important. Look at all your different habits. Is there that you've got a chip in your nail varnish that's just been sat there for ages? Is it that your car is a mess? I like the analogy of, well, it's not necessarily an analogy, but if someone lifted up your car boot or trunk, if you're American, is it tidy? Is it a mess? It's all those little tiny bits, again, that add up because if your car's a mess, what else is a mess? Fidgeting, picking skin, all these weird habits that people do. People do it. Sometimes we get nervous, but it's noticing it and you will notice it quicker each time and you'll be able to stop it rather than it just being a habit in the background. Healing past trauma is a big one. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but obviously everybody has a past. Everybody has something that has happened to them. And I think a lot of people go through life thinking all this stuff has happened to me and I'm the only one. Everybody has something. But what is key is again being able to communicate with your own partner about potentially what has happened. If you react in a certain way, maybe you need to sit down and explain this is why I'm reacting this way because this has happened. You don't need to go over it every single time, but at least now they have an understanding of why that's happened. But now also you have communicated that in your head. So now if you go to react the next time, hopefully you can then stop yourself sooner because now you've had that conversation, he's got that understanding, and you've been able to communicate it and process it in your head. But don't dwell too much on that because if you keep going back to it, this happened, this happened, this happened, and this happened, then you're never going to be able to move forward as well. But it's important to heal it, but once you've healed it, now move on. The very last one I've written is having low sexual partners, being a high value woman. Now, I know talking to a lot of men, this is something that they desire in their wife. So it's just again something to be aware of. So those are a few things about really talking about having a high value woman. I want to go back to a few questions so that I want you to start thinking about if you haven't already. So going back to what is your actual goal? What have you done today towards it? What are you going to do this weekend towards it? So having now listened to all of that, what woman do you need to be to actually be able to achieve it? If you're a man on this call, obviously, if you're thinking about your own goals, what man do you need to be? What if you're looking for a partner, what wife do I need to be? What husband do I need to be? A lot of women have a list of, if we're talking about relationships, this is my, well, actually, maybe you don't. Have you got a list of this is my ideal husband? This is all the things that I would like. If you're married, you can still do this because it's a good thing to have a conversation with your partner about. And actually, there'll be things that come up that you actually probably would really like, but you've never even spoken about. So this is who my ideal husband would be. Now, who is the wife that he would find attractive? What does this ideal husband, what is he looking for? So now I have this picture of this woman that this my ideal husband would like. Am I that person? And if I'm not that person, what am I going to do about it? Because you've just made the decision that this is who I would like to attract. Now, if you're not going to change and you're not going to do the work for it, why do you think you're able to ask that? Have you thought about what your own self-image is? Has anyone even ever said to you, write down what your self-image is? Like, what is a self-image? Ultimately, it's how you see yourself, which is why the mirror exercise is so good. Because when you look yourself in a mirror, if you can't look yourself in the eye, why is that? Is there something that you haven't processed in your head? Is there something that someone said to you once that you didn't like about how you looked, or whatever it is? Get get a like I'm reading from a notepad right now. Get, I know we have phones and we have technicals and whatever. Get an old-fashioned notepad and a pen and just sit there and write down what your self-image is. I did this before I was planning this call because I realized, again, I used to do this a lot. It was actually part of my morning routine pre-kids. And then I realized before I did this call, actually, I haven't done this for probably like a year. It's an ongoing thing. You don't just write it and then that's it for the rest of your life because people change. And especially if you're in this environment, a lot can change in 6 months. You can be a totally different person by, I mean, it's already May. You can be a totally different person by the end of this year. So if you have written down what your self-image is, perhaps at the start of this year, have you looked back and gone, okay, am I that person now? If I'm not that person now, again, what else do I need to be doing? Maybe it's that I committed to working out, going to the gym. Maybe it's that I committed to eating better. Maybe it's that I was looking for a relationship. Maybe it's that I wanted to improve my relationship and start going out on more dates or whatever it is. Don't look at it and go like be depressed because you're not exactly who you wanted to write down. Look at it from a productive point of view and go, okay, I've worked towards this. Now I need to work on this. Because you can only work on two or three different habits or changes at a time. Don't do it all at once because you will never do anything. But it's an ongoing thing. So so I don't know, get your phone out now and set a reminder for to do your self-image this weekend, but also set a reminder in like 6 months' time to then go back and review what you wrote and then rewrite it for the next 6 months. And then you've got something to really work towards. I wrote this down because I heard it the other day from one of my mentors, and I think it is very powerful. Is discipline is choosing your decision over self-gratification. And what I mean by your decision is whatever it is that you've written on your self-image is who you want to be. Or if you're working towards a business goal, if you're working towards a gym goal, if you're working, I don't know, whatever it is that your goal is, that is what your decision is. So if you've decided, I know a lot of people say, well, how do you know if you've decided? Because you're taking steps towards it. If you haven't decided, then you've just kind of written it down and just gone, okay, that'll happen. I'll manifest it somehow. It doesn't work like that. Like you have to work towards it. So if you've really decided on something, your feet are actually moving towards it. But discipline is actually choosing that, whatever it is that you've decided on to improve over your self-gratification. And what I mean by that is using healthy eating as an example or losing weight. So if you've made the decision to lose weight, then you would do more exercise, you would eat healthier, you would get more steps in, you would drink water over fat Coke. So you've actually made the decision because now your actions show that. And your actions show that rather than going, okay, I really need a quick fix. That's your self-gratification. It's those little moments of going, oh yeah, but I really need something like now. I need something to make me happy now, rather than, okay, now actually I'm working towards this goal. I can't wait to be happy then. I can't wait to be happy at the end of my goal. I need to be happy now. But it's those little quick fixes that are then going to ruin the discipline over time and actually ruin the end goal of where you need to be. So have you actually decided? Whatever it is that you're working towards, that goal that you thought about at the start, have you actually decided? And you will know when you're actually moving, when your body's moving, when you're making phone calls, if that's what you're doing from a business, whether it's attending the big London event that we've got at the end of May, whether it's that you're coming to Jamaica, the event that we've got at the end of May, I can't express. Plus, it's only in London, so I think a lot of people on this call are in the UK as well. But if you're not, you can still travel onto it. I can't express what these events do for belief, for meeting other people that are doing you te you can't express it without coming to an event. Once you've been to an event, you can fully picture and understand it. But to try and explain it, I remember when I very first met my husband, we both got into what I like to call our kind of freedom journey, and we'd flown out to the US, and we just wanted to be able to do what we wanted when we wanted, to travel the world, to not have to work in an office. He was working in a factory, and we just wanted to be able to do what we wanted when we wanted. So I turn up to this event, gigantic, like gigantic room, thousands and thousands of people. This, all I can describe as an American cowboy, almost having like the bit of straw, like the farmer straw hanging out his mouth. And just how successful he was. And he was just talking in front of all these people, earning whatever he was earning. And I was just looking at him going, how has he done it? If he can do it, what? We definitely can do it if he can do it. And it just gives you that belief to go, do you know what? There's so many other people that are actually winning. There's so many other people that are actually living the life that you actually want to live. Okay, now I have the belief because now I've seen that it's possible. Now I just need to get to work. So that's just a little snippet into how amazing events are. So yeah, if you're not already planning to come to the London event, I think someone put the event chat in. That's going to be great. Plus, you get to meet us face to face. What else have I written here? Think about your daily process. Just ultimately, what are you doing every day? What are you doing from when you get up to when you go to sleep? If you start looking at your whole day, you'll realize actually that there's a lot of wasted time. It might be that you're having too long conversations on the phone. It might be that you're watching TV. It might be that you're standing in front of the fridge too long, deciding what to eat. Whatever it is, have a look through whatever your daily process is, and you will find time, even if you have kids. Promise you, you will find time that is just wasted. Um, Key one, have you communicated to your partner and family about what your actual goal is? Because there's quite a big hurdle sometimes if somebody in the family has decided that, okay, this is now what I want to do. This is the goal that I've set for myself. Now I'm just going to go off and do it. But if you haven't communicated that to your family, then they're suddenly like, okay, where's Charlie gone? Like, she's not answering my phone call. She's just ignoring me. She's just fallen off the face of the earth. Like, have I done something wrong? So you need to communicate to your family of what you really want. It might be so you might need to call your mum and be like, Mum, this is what I'm planning to do. I want to see you at, I don't know, in 2 weeks' time, but this is what I'm doing for the next couple of weeks. Or maybe it's a that goal that you've set that you just need to communicate to your partner about it. This is what I really want to do. Can we work on it together? Or if you can't work on it together, can you just support me? How can we do it? How can we do it together? It's not necessarily this is what I'm doing, like F you, I'm gonna do it anyway. You've got to have that back and forth conversation of how can we do it together? How can we work together? That's often what Jake and I do. If he set a specific goal, I'm like, okay, what do we need to do to be able to achieve it? Maybe we need the nanny a bit more this month, or maybe there's a couple of weeks where I need to travel to my mum's, or I don't know, whatever it is. Maybe we need someone to look after the dog. Just, but if you don't have that communication, how you going to make it work? And you're only going to make more drama and hassle for yourself because you haven't actually been able to plan. It gives you so much more mental clarity. Um, are there bad habits or people you need to let go of? Thinking about certain people, are they 100% supportive or is there a constant niggle? Because I think this is also what holds a lot of people back. If they've made the decision themselves to do something, some people hold on to past friendships just because maybe they've been friends since school. Now, I'm not saying that you need to abandon everybody. You don't need to do that. But there may be a period of time where it's limited association, as in you maybe don't see them as much. But also, if somebody isn't 100% supportive of your goals, or you're maybe nervous to tell them, you need to really think about what that's actually really telling you. Do you really want somebody in your life that isn't 100% supportive? Do you really want like a friend is not a friend if they're not supportive in what you're doing, no matter if you're going, a different way to what they're used to. 100% supportive friend would be amazing. Like, I can't wait to see where you're at in a year's time. That's what you need. That's a true friend. And the last question actually goes back to, can you look yourself in the eye and know that you're doing everything? Are you doing everything that you possibly can to then go back to actually achieving that goal? Um, right, so we've got less than 10 minutes. That was probably a lot of words, information shoved at you. If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to take a couple of questions, respectful questions. Otherwise, if you're not yet with us or partnered with us, or you are not yet coming to the event in London, get the details for it. If you've not yet thought about how you're actually going to achieve that freedom and achieve those goals, then you can reach out to myself or reach out to Jake and we'll help. That's one of the best things about this whole group is that we're actually here to help you achieve whatever it is that you actually want to achieve. So I don't know if was Bonnie, I don't know if there were any questions in the chat, was there? I don't know if people can unmute. So if you do have a question, feel free to ask it in the chat and I am happy to answer. And if you don't, that is totally cool. I know sometimes after these calls, you're like, oh man, I wish I'd asked that question. So again, just feel free to reach out to Jake or myself, whoever you feel
I got
comfortable
a question.
just asking a question. That's my husband.
I got a question. So you said when an issue comes up, address it immediately. Do you mean then and then on the spot, or do you mean when the time's right? Because sometimes, like we had an issue, not an issue yesterday, but we had a moment yesterday where, if you want to share, like you kind of not snapped, but said something, and I didn't react because of the whole. Do you want to just touch on that cycle? Someone has to break the cycle. And
Mm.
also about timing, bringing up, because yes, okay, you got to address the issue there and then, but actually there and then might not be the best time to address the issue. But you just talk obviously about addressing it immediately at the soonest time possible.
Yeah, I would say as soon as you can, the better. But if you are in the heat of the moment and you emotions are high and you only feel that you're going to shout at each other, then it's not going to be productive for sure. So you need to be in a state where you are able to hear what the other person is saying. And what I mean by hear is, as in, not literally like I just heard my husband speak, but you need to be able to listen to what they're saying and accept it, accept that that's their view, and not just come back to a defense. So what Jake was saying was yesterday morning. I think that just a lot of things were happening at the same time. Like the kids needed something, the dog needed walking. Everyone was wanting attention at the same time, and that happens when you when you have a full life, a full family. And I was just a little bit frustrated be because I wanted a little bit more help from him at that particular time. Now I then took our dog out for a walk. By the time I'd come back, I then realized actually I shouldn't have snapped or reacted in the way that I reacted and expressed that to him. But then expressed that in times like that, this is what I would have liked. And actually, the issue happened because he thought I'd said something else. He'd actually heard something else from what I'd actually said. And that was just a total mishap. So the reason it happened was just pure accident. But unless you have that communication and just understanding that actually no, ultimately it comes down to unless you're able to hear what the other person's side, you're not going to be able to resolve the issue. Charlie, can you briefly touch on how women and men value love and respect differently? Bonnie, can you unmute yourself or not? Hang on. I'm trying to ask you to unmute. Is that working?
Yes, it's worked.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I do have some noise in the background, so apologies. Just basically on what you've just shared, I thought it would be valuable if you can just briefly touch on how women and men value love and respect differently. Obviously, we hold them both true, but a woman will view love in a relationship differently to how a man expects respect.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be valuable to all of us if you can just touch on that if you can.
Without going into a whole new call. ultimately um there is a whole separate book actually, and if anyone's interested, I can send it to them. But ultimately, it describes how women place love at the top of what they desire, and men place respect at the top of what they desire. Whereas women often think that men also have love at the top. That's their number one thing. Do men need love and do we need respect? Of course. But it's just having that understanding that at the forefront of everything, men want respect. They want to be respected. They want to feel respected, which is often why they want to go and achieve something and be the number one at something or be the best at something. Whereas women, their number one desire is to feel loved. So it's just having that understanding that if men always have at the forefront of their mind all women want to feel is love, then it could be, the little things that you do for your partner, like bringing them a cup of tea, or well, whatever it is that they like to feel loved. And as a woman, for a man, whatever it is that they need to feel respected. Maybe that's respecting their business decisions. Maybe that's respecting, maybe it's just telling them that you respect them in what they do for the family. But yeah, I could go into a whole different call about it, but that is a really good thing to have in the forefront of your mind. And maybe for if you haven't again had that conversation, or just if there's ever anything on your mind and anything that you want to improve on, just speak to your partner about it, because the most that you can communicate and be open with your partner, the better about everything. You could even go to your partner, like I've asked Jake, why, like how does he feel respected? How can I make him feel respected? Because unless you actually ask that question, you might be doing something that you think is the right thing, and you probably are doing the right things, but maybe there's one thing that actually would top it off. But because you've never asked the question, you don't know. You could ask another man, but his could be totally different to what your husband's is. And the same with men to women. Maybe you think that showing them love is giving them cuddles and being intimate and going out for dinner. But actually, maybe showing them love is literally bringing them a cup of tea in the morning. But unless you ask a question, how do you know? Perfect. Well, I will respect everybody's time. Thank you so much for being on the call, and I hope to see a lot of you in London, if not before. And have a lovely rest of your Sunday. Thank you all for being here. Bye bye.